The familiar rumble of my suitcase wheels on the concrete hallway echoed in my ears. The key in my hand trembled not from exhaustion, but from a burning impatience. Everything inside me was on fire. I needed to see my Lara as soon as possible. I'd been on a business trip for a whole week, and every night during our video calls, my daughter would whimper for her mommy. "When are you coming back? Are you gonna buy me gummy bears?" she'd ask. Thinking of her made my nose tingle. The door swung open, and a heavy, cooled-off smell of pot roast and onions invaded my nostrils. In the living room, the TV was screaming at a deafening volume, broadcasting some old country music concert. I bent down to take off my shoes and called out Lara Mommy's home. No one answered. My mother-in-law, Lucia Miller, peeked out from the kitchen. There wasn't a shadow of a smile on her face. Her heavy eyelids drooped. "Oh, you're back!" My sister-in-law, Katie, was sprawled on the couch, eyes glued to her phone, and didn't even bother to look up. "Where's Lara?" I straightened up, scanning the condo toward the balcony. "She's in a timeout. In the corner." Lucia wiped her hands on her apron. Her voice was flat and lifeless. "Timeout." My heart clenched. Lara is only 3. Yes, she can be a handful sometimes. But I dropped my bags and walked quickly to the balcony, pushing open the glass sliding door. A small figure was standing there, facing the street, her back to me. She was wearing thin pajamas, but that wasn't the most frightening part. It was her head that caught my eye. Her soft, dark hair, which she'd always had, was now shaved, buzzed down to the skin. In the dim evening light, her scalp had a pale, grayish-blue shine. I felt a roar in my ears as if someone had hit me with a sledgehammer. I rushed to her, knelt down, and turned my daughter to face me. "Lara." The child lifted her head. Her little face was pale as a sheet, and her eyes were red and swollen from crying. Seeing me, her lips twisted and tears big as peas rolled down her cheeks. But she just clenched her lips tightly, not daring to cry out loud. Her whole body trembled in my arms. "Who did this? Who shaved your head?" My voice was shaking. I ran a hand over her rough scalp, and my heart broke with a pain so sharp it felt like a knife was slicing through it. "I did." Lucia's harsh voice sounded from behind me. I scooped Lara into my arms and turned around. My mother-in-law was standing there, hands on her hips, her expression hard. Katie had also put down her phone and sat up watching the scene with obvious interest. My father-in-law, Arthur Miller, had come out of his room at some point. He sat grim-faced at the dining table and lit a cigarette, clouds of smoke hiding his expression. "Why? Why would you do that? She's only 3 years old. What right did you have to shave her head?" I started to tremble with rage. "What right?" Lucia's voice became even shriller, her finger almost touching Lara's buzzed head. "The right of someone who knows she has sticky fingers. She's young, but she's already learned how to steal. My gold bracelet, the one my mother gave me for my wedding, is gone. I've looked everywhere. It's not there. If she didn't take it, then who did? The gold bracelet." I froze. I knew she had a gold bracelet, a gift from her own mother that she guarded like the apple of her eye. It was kept in a lacquered wooden box locked in her room, and she always carried the key, never letting anyone even touch it. "That's impossible," I declared firmly. "Lara wouldn't take it. She barely even goes into your room." "Oh, sister-in-law, whatever you say," Katie drawled, crossing her legs. Her voice was icy. "You never really know anyone. Your daughter looks like a little angel, but who knows what's going on in that head of hers? Mom's bracelet happens to be very expensive. Kids, what do they know? She saw something shiny and took it to play with." "Shut up," I stared hard at Katie. She pursed her lips, but couldn't hide the triumphant look in her eyes. Lucia, as if she'd received support, became even more aggressive. "If it wasn't her, then who else in this house? She's the only outsider here. All she does is eat my food, drink my water. And on top of that, she was born a useless girl. And now she's turned into a thief. She's just like her mother, came from nothing, the same kind of trash that doesn't belong at a decent table." Every poisonous word stabbed into me like a needle. I hugged Lara tighter. My daughter hid her frightened face in my neck, her small hands clutching my shirt collar. "Repeat what you said," I hissed, looking at Lucia. "So what if I repeat it?" "What, you're a thief just like her. You came to our house with nothing. You brought nothing good. You gave birth to a liar with grabbing hands." My mother-in-law's spit sprayed my face. Katie hurried to add more fuel to the fire. "Exactly, Mom. Don't get worked up. I think it's just someone who doesn't know how to raise her daughter. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree." The blood rushed to my head. I stretched out my hand, pointing first at Katie, then at Lucia. "You're slandering her. Do you have proof? If you don't have proof, then it's libel. Lara is my daughter, and I will not allow you to insult her like this. Proof. My words are the proof. And who are you to raise your voice in this house? Lucia took a step toward me. I instinctively stepped back, shielding my daughter. At that moment, Arthur, who had been silent until then, slammed his fist on the table with a loud bang that echoed through the condo. He stood up. His face was dark as the bottom of a pot. In a few steps, he was in front of me. The smell of tobacco and greasy food hit my nostrils. What are you screaming about? Have you no respect for your elders? His cloudy eyes bored into me. Your mother-in-law told you a few home truths, so the granddaughter messed up. Doesn't the grandmother have the right to discipline her? She shaved her head. Big deal. You should be grateful she didn't give her a spanking. That's not discipline, it's abuse and slander. I raised my head, looking him stubbornly in the eyes. Lara trembled even more in my arms. Her silent fear transmitted through our clothes was like ice water poured over my rage, but it only made the fire inside me colder and harder. Arthur was apparently infuriated by my defiant gaze. His jaw clenched. Suddenly, he raised his large, calloused hand and with all his strength slapped me across the face. Smack. The sharp sound deafened me. My vision went dark, my ears rang. My left cheek first went numb, and then was pierced by a sharp, burning pain. I staggered and fell backward, my back hitting the cold glass of the balcony door. A sharp pain shot through my spine. My arms weakened and Lara almost fell. A thick, metallic taste filled my mouth. Blood. My left cheek was swelling rapidly. My ears were ringing so loudly that I barely heard Lucia's insults. I didn't even see the triumphant smile on Katie's face. Lara finally burst into tears. Her small hand reached for my swollen cheek. She was crying so hard she could barely breathe. Mommy. Hurt. I licked my split lip. The taste of blood became even stronger. I raised my head and slowly scanned the three faces before me, the sarcastic mother-in-law, the malevolent sister-in-law, and the father-in-law who had just struck me down. They stood over me like 3 mountains of ice. The pain in my face, the fire in my soul, my daughter's frightened tears, and the nauseating taste of blood in my mouth all merged into one instant. A cold, sober calm I had never felt before. I didn't cry, nor did I scream. I just slowly got up, clutching Lara tightly against me, as if she were my only lifeline in this storm. Then I turned without looking at any of them, and step by step, walked to our room, locking the door behind me. The insults from the living room reached me even through the wooden door like the rumble of distant thunder. She's rebelling, and now she locks herself in, Lucia screamed. Then rot in there since you're so brave. Mom, don't upset yourself, Katie's venomous voice drifted in. In my opinion, she's got a guilty conscience. Why else would she lock herself in? She's probably coaching her daughter on what to say. My ears were still ringing. The left side of my face was burning. The taste of blood in my mouth made me nauseous, but I didn't care. Lara was still sobbing, her little body shaking against my shoulder. Her tears and snot smeared my neck. I stroked her back gently, quickly scanning the room. It was small, furnished in a hurry after the wedding. The wardrobe was an old Miller family hand-me-down, just repainted. The dresser I bought on Facebook Marketplace. On it was a photo of us, Lara and me. In the picture, my daughter still had her hair in 2 pigtails, grinning from ear to ear. My heart was pierced with sharp pain again. I can't cry. Not now. I opened the drawer under the wardrobe, and from under a pile of old clothes, I pulled out a small metal box. Inside were our birth certificates, my driver's license, our marriage certificate, and a debit card. It held $50,000 that I had been saving for several years, setting aside a portion of each paycheck. It was my last line of defense, my safety net, which not even Theo knew about. Quickly, I put the documents in my purse, grabbed a few changes of seasonal clothes for us, and stuffed them into a simple duffel bag. Lara's little backpack was next to the bed. I grabbed it, threw in a bottle of water, an unopened package of crackers, and her favorite, though very worn, stuffed rabbit. The whole process took a few minutes. My hands moved quickly and surely. The insults from the other side of the door ceased for a moment. Apparently, they were listening. Then Lucia started banging on the door hard. Sarah, come out of there right now. Explain yourself properly. Where did you hide the bracelet? If you don't come out, I'm calling the police. They'll take you away. You believe that. The police. I smiled coldly. That's all I could wish for. I picked Lara up, grabbed the bag and the backpack, walked to the door and took a deep breath. The heavy smell of blood filled my lungs. Then I turned the lock. The door was immediately pushed open from the outside. Lucia's face, contorted with rage, appeared in the crack. Seeing me with the bags and my daughter in my arms, she was stunned for a moment and then yelled even louder. What's gotten into you? Decided to run away, you thief. Your conscience got to you, yes. I paid her no mind, pushed the door open with my shoulder, and walked out. Arthur was still sitting at the table smoking. Through the smoke, his dark gaze was fixed on me. Katie blocked my path in the hallway, crossing her arms and shooting me a disdainful look. Well, sister-in-law, what's this drama? Leaving home, my voice was low, even hoarse but icy. Get out of my way. Katie flinched at my gaze and instinctively took a step to the side. I walked past her with Lara and the bag. Lara hid her face in my shoulder, her little hands tightly hugging my neck. Lucia recovered her senses and jumping forward grabbed my bag. Explain yourself. Where's the bracelet? Did you teach that little pest of yours to take it? You want to run off with what you stole? You won't get away. I stopped and looked at her hand, clutching the bag's strap. My cheek was still swollen, the blood on my lip probably hadn't dried yet, but I looked her straight in the eye and slowly, distinctly said, Mrs. Miller, listen carefully. First, Lara did not take your bracelet. Second, if you ever touch me or insult my daughter again, I paused, my gaze sweeping over her and Arthur, who had paled. I will be more than happy to call the police myself. Let them investigate what constitutes assault and child abuse. You want to call the police about the bracelet? Go ahead. While you're at it, file a complaint against me too. I'll be waiting. Lucia was stunned by the cold rage in my eyes. Her hand unconsciously let go. I seized the moment and snatched the bag from her. Arthur forcefully stubbed out his cigarette in the ashtray. And now you're threatening your elders. You've completely lost all fear. When Theo gets back, we'll see how he puts you in your place. Then let him come, I threw out as my last words, and without looking back, hugged Lara, opened the front door, and walked out. The dim light of the stairwell flooded over us. Behind me, a dead silence fell, and then came Lucia's shrill scream. Ungrateful brat, abusing her elders, she stole and still acts all high and mighty. Katie's voice seemed to try to calm her. Mom, don't get worked up. Let her go. We'll see where she ends up. If she's so brave, let's see if she ever comes back. I took a step out and slammed the door behind me. Boom. The loud sound seemed to separate me from that place called home into two different worlds. The motion sensor light on the landing flickered on, illuminating me and Lara. My daughter lifted her tear-streaked face. Her big eyes were filled with horror and confusion. Mommy, where are we going? I kissed her cold-shaved head. I pressed my cheek against hers, forcing my voice to sound calm. Honey, don't be scared. Mommy's going to take you somewhere really nice where it'll be just the two of us. Do you want that? She looked at me timidly. What about Daddy? Daddy's at work. We'll talk later. I felt a lump in my throat. I held her in my arms, grabbed the bag, and started down the stairs. The sound of my steps echoed in the empty stairwell, heavy but determined. Stepping out of the building, a blast of cold winter wind hit my face. I shivered and pulled Lara's hood down further to cover her shaved head. The street was busy. Streetlights were coming on. People were hurrying by, each in their own world. None of them knew what that woman with a child in her arms, a swollen cheek, and a duffel bag had just been through or where she was headed now. But I knew. I couldn't stop, and I couldn't go back to that place filled with slander, cruelty, and violence. I didn't want to go back for even a minute. The pain in my face, the taste of blood, my daughter's scared eyes, and that deafening slap, all of it like a branding iron was seared into my heart. At the curb, I called an Uber. The driver helped put the bag in the trunk. I sat in the back with Lara. Where to, ma'am? The driver asked. I gave him the address of a cheap motel far from our home but with good transportation access. I knew the place from work when our company had organized an event there. I knew it was clean and relatively safe. The car pulled away. The scenery outside the window began to blur past. Lara, apparently exhausted from her tears and freed from the suffocating atmosphere, relaxed a little, nestled against me, and soon fell asleep, but her little hand still held a tight grip on my sweater. I looked at her face, which twitched now and then in her sleep at her shaved head, and the cold despair in my soul was replaced by a sharp pain. But the pain quickly gave way to a firm determination. I will not forgive this slap. And Lara will not be branded a thief. The phone in my pocket vibrated. It was Theo. His name glowed on the screen. I stared at it until the screen went dark. I didn't answer. A message came through immediately. Sarah, Mom called me. She said you took Lara and left, that you made a scene. What happened? Is it true Lara took the bracelet? Mom is a nervous wreck. Come back with our daughter quickly. Apologize. We're a family. Can't we just work this out? I looked at the message. Every word burned my eyes. Made a scene. Apologize. A family. I slowly deleted the message, and then added his number to my block list. After doing so, I lifted my head and looked out the window at the bright alien lights of the city. My cheek still throbbed, but my gaze was absolutely cold. Arriving at the motel I paid carried a sleeping Lara in my arms, grabbed the bag and entered the bright, clean lobby. "Do you have a reservation?" the girl at the front desk smiled. "No," I replied. "I need a double room for 3 nights." After filling out the paperwork I paid with my card, took the key and got into the elevator. The mirrored wall reflected my current state: disheveled hair, a red and swollen cheek with a cut on my lip, a tired but surprisingly lucid gaze, and a sleeping bald little girl in my arms. The elevator ascended, the numbers on the panel changing. I looked at my reflection in the mirror and smiled coldly. The Miller family, Lucia, Arthur, Katie, and my husband, incapable of distinguishing black from white. This isn't over yet. Lara slept fitfully, startling and murmuring in her sleep. "No, don't." Lara didn't steal. I sat on the edge of the hard motel bed, stroking her with one hand and using the other to search on my phone for the nearest 4-hour pharmacy. The swollen cheek needed to be iced, and the cut on my lip was best treated with an ointment. But the most important thing was to keep a cool head, not letting the pain and anger cloud my judgment. I ordered cotton swabs, ointment, and an ice pack for delivery. While I waited, I carefully wiped Lara's face and hands with a damp towel. When I touched her shaved head, my hands started to tremble again. My daughter opened her eyes, saw me, whispered "Mommy," and snuggled against me again. "Sleep, sweetie." "Mommy's here," I whispered. My nerves were frayed. I couldn't hide in this motel forever. Lucia daring to slander Lara so brazenly, Arthur raising his hand to me, and Theo sending me a message. Like that, all of it was because they knew. My family is far away. I'm alone. And for the sake of so-called family peace, I had always put up with everything. They thought I would cry and eventually crawl back, head bowed in guilt. Before, maybe that would have been the case. But that slap had ripped all indecision and weakness out of me. The delivery arrived quickly. I applied the ice pack to my cheek. The piercing cold eased the swelling and the burning a little, and it cleared my thoughts. Then I went into the bathroom and in front of the mirror carefully treated the cut on my lip with an antiseptic. The ointment stung a bit. The woman in the mirror looked back at me with dark, tearless eyes filled only with a deep, contained hatred. After treating the wound, I returned to the room. Lara was sleeping more soundly now. I went to the window and pulled back the curtain. The city lights glittered, but that light couldn't penetrate my soul. I opened the contact list on my phone. My finger slid over the names and stopped on 2, Joanna and Martha. Joanna was my college roommate. After graduation, she gritted her teeth, got her law degree, and now worked at a good firm specializing in civil and family law. She had a fiery temper and couldn't stand injustice. Martha was my cousin 5 years older, who worked as a senior editor at an influential online news publication. She was a sharp writer, had a vast network of contacts, and above all, she hated seeing the strong bully, the weak. In the past, I rarely asked them for help. I always felt uncomfortable airing my family's dirty laundry, bothering others. But now was not the time for ceremony. I called Joanna first. After a few rings, she picked up. "Hey, Sarah. What a surprise, calling this late." "Miss me," her cheerful voice came through. Hearing that familiar voice, I felt that lump in my throat again, but I held it back. "Joanna, I'm in trouble. I need your help." There was a moment of silence on the other end. Joanna's voice changed immediately. "Where are you? Are you safe? What happened?" I told her everything. How I returned from my trip and saw Lara with her head shaved about the missing bracelet, the slander, the insults from Lucia and Katie about Arthur's slap, and how I ended up running away with my daughter. I tried to be brief and to the point. My voice was calm, as if I were telling someone else's story. When I finished, Joanna was silent for a few seconds. Then I heard her take a deep breath. When she spoke, her voice was filled with controlled rage. What a family of scumbags. Raising a hand to a woman, shaving a 3-year-old's head. "Sarah, how's your face? Where's Lara? How is she?" "I'm fine. Just a bad bruise." "Lara's terrified. She just fell asleep." I paused. "Joanna, I want a divorce. And I can't let Lara carry this label of being a thief. I want them to apologize to pay for this." "Divorce." "Absolutely. A family like that is something to throw in the trash, not live with." Joanna cut in. "Sarah, listen to me. You did everything right. Getting out of there was the most important thing. You're safe now. Send me your address. The key issue is the bracelet. They'll insist to the end that Lara took it. If they stick her with that crap, it will be very difficult for you to fight for custody and division of assets. Do you have any way to prove it wasn't Lara? Direct proof, inside the condo. Probably not. But I know Lucia guarded that jewelry box like her life depended on it. The key was always with her. Lara physically couldn't reach it or open it. And besides, I hesitated, but then said it, I suspect it was Katie. She's been desperate for money lately. Always on her phone, sighing, and when asked, she'd get evasive. And Lucia has always protected her precious little girl. Even if she found out, she might cover for her or help her. Reasonable suspicion, Joanna's voice became calmer, shifting into work mode. Sarah, I remember you once told me you put a small nanny cam in the living room when Lara had a babysitter. My heart started to beat faster. That's right. When Lara was just over a year old and I went back to work, I hired a nanny. For peace of mind, I installed a hidden camera, shaped like a book, on the living room shelf. It was connected to my phone. Later, the nanny turned out to be great, and I forgot about the camera. But I never took it down, and it was still plugged in. I just haven't opened the app in a long time. Yes, I turned it on and forgot about it. Excellent, Joanna's voice brightened. Log into the app right now. Check the recordings from the last few days, especially around the time the bracelet disappeared. If there's footage of Katie or someone else messing with the box, that's irrefutable proof. Also, there should be cameras in the lobby and elevator. I can help with that. It'll require either a police report or a lawyer's request. For now, find the video from the apartment, save it and send it to me. And remember, not a word to anyone in the Miller family. Don't tip them off, okay, I'll do it right now. And one more thing, Joanna added. From now on, any communication with the Miller family only through text or messages, so there's a record. If they call, record the call. The bruise on your face, go to an urgent care clinic. Get a medical report. Lara's shaved head, if you have before photos to compare, or if you can film her having nightmares showing she's scared, all of that is also evidence. Gather everything that proves their cruelty, slander, and violence. Joanna's instructions were clear and professional. It was like an adrenaline shot. Joanna, thank you. Stop it. What's with the formalities between us? Her voice softened. Sarah, you should have gotten tougher a long time ago for Lara, and for yourself. Don't be afraid. I'm with you. You get the video, and I'll prepare a legal notice. As soon as we have the proof, we'll go straight to the police and to court for defamation, assault, and child abuse. And at the same time, the divorce petition. Let them drown. After hanging up, I felt much more confident. I immediately opened the almost forgotten camera app. My hands were shaking a little with excitement. I logged in. The device was online. I rewound the recording 5 days to the day I left for my business trip. I fast-forwarded through the footage. The familiar yet now alien condo appeared on the screen. I saw myself leaving with my suitcase, Lara crying and reaching for me, and Lucia pulling her away abruptly. The following days were mostly Lucia and Katie watching TV and chatting in the living room. Lara played by herself or ran small errands for her grandmother, bring my slippers and things like that. She seemed very subdued. Arthur appeared rarely, always scowling. I kept fast-forwarding, my eyes glued to the screen. And then 3 days ago, around 2 p.m., Lara was napping. Lucia took a call, grabbed her purse, and left in a hurry. Only Katie was left in the living room. First, she scrolled through her phone feed, fidgeting, and then suddenly she stood up, went to her parents' bedroom door, looked around, and slipped inside. My heart leaped into my throat. About 5 minutes later, Katie came out. In her hand was something small. She quickly shoved it into the pocket of her bathrobe. On her face was a mixture of tension and relief. She looked around again, sat back on the couch, and pretended to keep scrolling on her phone. Another 10 minutes passed, and Lucia returned. Shortly after, a shrill scream came from her room. "Where's my bracelet?" This was followed by a crashing sound as if someone was turning everything upside down. Lucia ran out into the living room, shaking Katie, who with an innocent look shook her head. Then my mother-in-law stormed into our room and pulled a sleepy Lara out of bed, starting the interrogation. I couldn't see what happened next. I fast-forwarded to today, a few hours before my arrival. Lucia was holding a pair of electric clippers. Despite Lara's screams and resistance, she held her down firmly and shaved her head. Katie stood by watching, sometimes helping to hold Lara's flailing legs. The video stopped. I sat there, frozen. Then that coldness exploded into a boiling rage. The proof was irrefutable. It was Katie who stole the bracelet. The shaved head was a malicious and unjust act of revenge by Lucia. With trembling hands, I clipped the key fragments from the video, saved them, uploaded them to the cloud, and sent them to Joanna. After doing that, I leaned back in my chair and took a deep breath. Next, I called my cousin Martha. There was noise on the other end. It sounded like she was at a party. Sarah, what's up, Martha? Move to a quieter spot. Martha, I'm in trouble. I need your advice. This time, my voice was calmer. After hearing me out, Martha reacted exactly the same way as Joanna. Her voice went up an octave. Are they insane? I'm coming over right now. No need, Martha. I'm at a motel. I'm safe. Lara's asleep, I said quickly. I need your help, but your kind of help. Martha calmed down. I get it. You want to bring public opinion into this? Yes, I confirmed. The courts take too long and people like them, what they fear most is shame. I want everyone to know what they did, especially Katie. She loves the spotlight so much, playing the socialite on social media. Martha thought for a moment. Okay, I'll handle that part. Send me all the evidence with personal details redacted. I have some excellent writers who specialize in these social dramas with unexpected twists. We'll focus on how the grandmother who despises her granddaughter slandered a 3-year-old child, how the grandfather assaulted his daughter-in-law, and how the sister-in-law, a thief, orchestrated it. All. This will have a huge impact. As for the platforms, don't worry, I'll take care of it. I promise they'll become famous. Thank you, cousin, I said sincerely. We're family. Don't say that, Sarah. You're doing the right thing. With people who only understand the language of force, you have to speak their language. Take care of yourself and Lara. Wait for news. Hanging up, I put down the phone. The room was very quiet, only the sound of Lara's steady breathing. The wound on my face still hurt, but the panic and feeling of loneliness had almost disappeared. I went back to the window. The night had deepened, but the distant skyscrapers still glittered with lights. I knew my battle was just beginning, but I was no longer alone. Joanna's legal notice, Martha's media blitz, and the irrefutable video evidence in my hands. Miller family, just you wait. The phone screen in the darkness lit up and went dark again. I didn't need to look to know. It was Theo or Lucia calling from his phone. I put the phone on silent and turned it face down. I didn't want to hear anything from the Miller family right now. Lara turned over in her sleep. Her little hand searched for the pillow. Finding my hand, she immediately wrapped hers around it like ivy and murmured, "Mommy." I stroked her tenderly. The determination that had come after finding the proof was again replaced by a bitter sorrow. So small, and already facing so much malice. I can't give in to weakness, I told myself. Gentleness and respect won't achieve anything. They'll only guarantee Lara a future where she lives with the label of a thief and the constant threat of a slap. As soon as day broke, I woke up. My cheek was even more swollen. The bruise was more defined, and the cut on my lip was covered with a dark scab. I washed my face with cold water. The burning pain woke me up completely. Lara woke up too. She was sitting on the bed looking confusedly at the unfamiliar room. Then her gaze fell on my face and her lips twisted to cry. "Mommy, does your face hurt? Not anymore." I forced a smile and gently stroked her shaved head. "Lara, are you hungry? Come on, Mommy, we'll buy you something delicious. There'll be milk muffins and your favorite donuts." Hearing the word donuts, my daughter perked up, but then she lowered her eyes. "Is Grandma going to scold us?" she whispered. "No, she's not." I knelt down and looked her straight in the eye. "Lara, remember we didn't do anything wrong. It was Grandma and Auntie who behaved badly. Mommy will protect you. No one will ever hurt you again. For now, we'll stay here." "Okay," she nodded. Her little hand touched her shaved head and her eyes turned red again. "Ugly. I'm ugly, Mommy." Swallowing a lump in my throat, I put a soft beanie on her head. Our Lara, even in a beanie, is the prettiest. "When all this is over, Mommy will let your hair grow long. We'll braid it together." I got her washed up, and we went down for breakfast. The tasty food and my promises improved her mood a little. Back in the room, I opened my laptop to organize my thoughts. Joanna, after receiving the video, responded succinctly. "Received. The evidence is excellent. Awaiting further news." I knew she was already preparing the documents for the police or sending the legal notice. From Martha, there was no news yet. Working with the media takes time. Waiting is the most torturous part, especially when your phone starts getting bombarded with calls from unknown numbers and an avalanche of friend requests on Messenger from Theo's relatives. The messages were all the same. "Sarah, I heard you had a fight with Mom. Why are you acting like strangers? Come back. Theo is very worried. The child is so young. Don't make rash decisions." I ignored everything, but I realized the Miller family was getting agitated. They started involving relatives trying to persuade me to come back. Apparently, they thought I was still the same old Sarah who would endure anything for the sake of family peace. Around noon, the phone rang from a landline number. "Hello, is this Sarah Miller?" The voice was of a middle-aged woman, slightly familiar with an official tone. "Yes, this is she. I'm Miss Davis, the director of the local Child Protective Services." I smiled coldly. They were fast already, involving CPS. "Good morning, Miss Davis." My voice was calm. "Ah, Sarah, it's like this." Miss Davis sighed. Her tone was conciliatory. "Your mother-in-law, Mrs. Lucia, and your husband Theo came to us this morning to complain about a family conflict. They say you left home with the child and even took valuable items with you. Anyway, a big mess. Other people's families, no one knows what's really going on, of course, but we here try to keep things peaceful. Maybe you could come back with your daughter and we could all sit down and talk calmly. You're a family, there are no problems that can't be solved. Your mother-in-law admitted she went too far when she shaved her granddaughter's head, but she was also upset about the bracelet. It's a keepsake, you know." "Miss Davis," I interrupted, "are you aware of all the circumstances? Do you know that they not only shaved my 3-year-old daughter's head without any basis, but also slandered her, calling her a thief, useless and trash? Do you know that Arthur, my father-in-law, assaulted me when I tried to protect my daughter and knocked me down?" There was a silence of a few seconds on the other end. Miss Davis's voice became embarrassed. "Well, about that, Theo and his mother didn't go into detail. But Sarah, older people sometimes get worked up. They say things in the heat of the moment. Physical assault, of course, that's not right, but as the younger ones we should— Miss Davis," I interrupted again, my voice firm. "This isn't getting worked up or words in the heat of the moment. This is child abuse, defamation, and domestic violence. I am already gathering evidence to resolve this matter legally. If CPS wants to help with reconciliation, then please have them provide a written apology for insulting my daughter and for assaulting me, as well as guarantees that this will never happen again. Furthermore, the bracelet was not taken by my daughter, and I have proof of who did it. Until the real thief confesses and returns what was stolen, I see no point in sitting down at the negotiating table." Miss Davis was taken aback by my assertiveness, mumbled something about needing to verify everything, and hung up. I put down the phone. I knew this was just the first wave of pressure. And indeed, in the afternoon, Theo called from a new number. This time there was no trace of peace in his voice, only restrained anger and impatience. "Sarah, that's enough of this game. Mom got sick because of you. What do you want? It was just a misunderstanding. Do you really have to destroy the family? Lara is so little and you're dragging her around motels. Do you think that's normal? Come back immediately. A misunderstanding." My voice on the phone was so calm it surprised even me. "Theo, they shaved your daughter's head and called her a thief. Your wife was assaulted by your father. And you call that a misunderstanding. Your mother got sick, but the wound on my face and the terror in Lara's eyes don't matter to anyone. Dad got worked up. Mom was upset too. The bracelet was missing. In the house, Lara is the only child. They suspected her. So what? You're fine now. Lara's hair will grow back." "Can't you be more forgiving, Theo?" I interrupted his tirade. "No. In your eyes, I should always be forgiving and patient. But not this time. And by the way, your daughter didn't take the bracelet. I have proof. So tell your little sister to get ready to explain herself to the police." "What are you talking about, Katie? How could she—" Theo's voice faltered as if someone had grabbed him by the throat. I didn't listen anymore. I hung up. The world became quiet again. Shortly after, Joanna called. In her voice, there were notes of excitement and cold anger. "Sarah, the legal notice, I sent it in my name as your representative to the Miller family. It contains a first demand for Arthur and Lucia to provide a written apology for the violence and mistreatment toward you and for the insults and abuse of Lara, as well as to compensate you for medical expenses and emotional distress. A second demand for Katie to publicly apologize to Lara for the theft and slander and to return the bracelet or its value. A third notice informing them that you have proof, including a video recording. In case of non-compliance, we will immediately proceed to the police with a lawsuit for defamation and assault and the divorce petition. Also, Joanna added, knowing they might pretend not to have received anything, I sent the main points of the notice via text message to Theo's and his parents' phones. I think things are getting heated over there now." As soon as Joanna finished, my phone exploded with notifications. This time it wasn't calls, but messages on Messenger. I opened it. It was Theo, writing from his mother's account. A series of voice messages. I played the first one. Lucia's shrill and tearful insults. Sarah, you ungrateful wretch, you dare to hire a lawyer to sue us, and on top of that you slander Katie. What a despicable person. What video is this? It's fake. You forged everything. I'm the one who's going to sue you for defamation. Next, Theo's breathless voice. Sarah, delete that video immediately. How can you be so cruel, Katie, as your sister-in-law? Do you really have to drag her through the mud? Come back, let's talk. Then Katie's voice shrill and frightened. Sister-in-law, you got it all wrong. I didn't take the bracelet, really. The video, the angle isn't good. Don't do something stupid. We're family, I didn't reply. I just listened silently as their initial rage turned into panic and excuses. And finally, a text message that revealed Lucia's desire to give in. Sarah, I was wrong. I shouldn't have cut Lara's hair. It was on impulse. Come back. Let's not air our dirty laundry in public so people don't laugh at us. Theo's father is sorry, too. Sorry I touched my cheek, which still hurt. No, they weren't sorry for what they did to us. They were afraid. Afraid of the legal notice of the video of public exposure. While I was pondering, my cousin Martha called. Her voice was fast and professional. Sarah, I sent you a draft of the article to your email. See if you need to correct or remove anything. Working title, 3-year-old branded a thief. Grandmother shaves her head. Grandfather assaults. Mom. Nanny cam reveals shocking truth. I've already arranged with several high-traffic platforms. Tonight at 8 p.m., the story goes live. I think your in-laws are in for a rough time. I opened the email and quickly read the article. Martha was a true professional. The text was incisive, the facts presented clearly, logically, irrefutably. The emphasis was on Lara's helplessness and innocence, the cruelty and despotism of her husband's family, the shocking twist of the sister-in-law's theft and slander, and the mother's courageous decision to protect her child. My and Lara's personal details were hidden, but for any acquaintance, it would be obvious who it was about. It's perfect. No changes needed, I replied. Great. Then tonight at 8, the show begins, Martha laughed. Take care of yourself and stay tuned. After hanging up, I approached the window. The sun was setting, painting the city in shades of crimson and gold. I picked up Lara, who was playing with some building blocks, and kissed her beanie-covered head. The storm was approaching. But this time, Lara and I were not leaves trembling in the wind. Night fell, the city lit up. In the room, only the nightlight was on, creating a soft twilight. Lara ate a little, watched some cartoons, and tired from the past few days, fell asleep early. I was sitting on the edge of the bed, the light from my phone screen, illuminating my face constantly, refreshing news feeds and popular local groups. Exactly at 8 p.m., like a huge stone thrown into a quiet lake, the waves began. First, I saw the article on the main page of the media platform where Martha worked. The headline was even more striking than in the draft. The 3-year-old thief, grandmother shaves granddaughter's head, grandfather assaults daughter-in-law. The shocking twist caught on video. Under the title were illustrations. Although my and Lara's faces were carefully blurred, Lucia's malevolent profile, Arthur's blurred silhouette raising his arm, and a screenshot from the camera where Katie was sneaking out of the room made a strong impression. The article, in a documentary style, described the events in detail. The wording was objective, but the subtext and righteous indignation that shone through the lines were capable of shaking any reader. The emphasis was on the mother-in-law's cruelty, the father-in-law's violence, the sister-in-law's theft and slander, and the mother's decisive break to protect her daughter. At the end, an edited, soundless fragment of the video recording was attached. The key moments of Katie stealing the bracelet, Lucia's brutality, Arthur's gesture of raising his hand were marked with a red circle chillingly clear. Almost simultaneously with the publication, a message from Joanna arrived. The article is published. The effect will grow very quickly. Stay reachable. But, except for me and Martha, don't answer any calls from the Millers or their acquaintances. If they harass you, let me know immediately. That's also evidence. I replied understood and fixed my gaze back on the phone. The comments on the article were growing at a dizzying speed. My God, this is happening in the 21st century. To hate your granddaughter so much to shave a 3-year-old's head and call her a thief? I'm crying, seeing the photo of her with her head shaved, clinging to her mom. This grandmother is a demon. And the father-in-law is even worse. Raising a hand to a woman his own daughter-in-law, the sister-in-law. How disgusting. Stealing from her own mother and blaming a 3-year-old niece. Where is her conscience? The mom did the right thing. That's how you do it. Gather the evidence and put them in jail. Let them spend some time behind bars. This story is unbelievable. You can tell from this mother-in-law's face that she's a viper, and the sister-in-law is the same. Can anyone find out who this family is? Give the address, the phone number, let them know what cyberbullying is too. I support the divorce. Run with the child far away from that cesspool. Have they filed a police report yet? With domestic violence and defamation, that's already enough for a hefty sentence. Among the furious comments, occasionally phrases like, "Every family has its problems," or in an argument, "Both sides are always at fault" would appear, but they were immediately drowned out by the wave of indignation. The article spread rapidly through local Facebook groups and Telegram channels. The number of views and shares grew exponentially. I realized that Martha had mobilized her resources, but such speed surpassed my expectations. The power of social media manifested before me for the first time so vividly and furiously. My phone started vibrating again. This time, it wasn't unknown numbers from the Millers, but an avalanche of calls and messages from unknown numbers. They were journalists wanting an interview, they were supportive people expressing their solidarity, but mostly they were curses and threats directed at the Miller family. Old man Miller dropped dead. Lucia, people like you don't deserve to be grandmothers. I wish you a lonely and painful old age. Katie. Stealing from your mom, slandering your niece. Have you no shame? Do your colleagues know? We've already informed your boss. Wait for the police. What a horror. Theo, are you a man or not, watching your wife and daughter be humiliated and burying your head in the sand? A coward, obviously. The omnipotent internet, through blurred details and the address, had already identified the Millers' exact condo building. Theo's workplace, the company where Katie worked, and even the community center where Lucia went for dance. Classes. This information continued to spread. I disabled notifications for calls and messages from unknown numbers, leaving only Messenger. The chats with Joanna and Martha were quiet. They were waiting, observing the unfolding events. But Theo's Messenger, after a few hours of silence, exploded again. This time it was only voice messages. I played them. Theo's voice was breaking with rage. Sarah, did you do this? What's on the internet, was that you? Are you crazy? Do you want to destroy our entire family? Then came Lucia's desperate cry. There was a lot of background noise. It sounded like people were shouting outside. Sarah, you heartless murderer. Why did you do this to us? How are we supposed to face our neighbors now? Take everything down from the internet right now. Take it down. Do you want to drive us to our graves? Arthur's heavy breathing and restrained growl. Revolting. What a disgrace for me. Katie's voice was filled with tears and evident fear. Sister-in-law, I'm guilty. It was me who took the bracelet. I stole it. I sold it to pay off a payday loan. Tell them on the internet to stop attacking me, not to come to my work. I'm begging you, please, they're going to fire me, sister-in-law, forgive me. In the last message, Katie was just sobbing, completely broken. I listened to everything with a stone-faced expression. Not a single emotion stirred in my soul. They should have thought about that before. I didn't reply to any messages. I just forwarded the voice message where Katie confessed the theft to Joanna and Martha. Joanna replied, received. The chain of evidence is getting more and more solid. Martha sent a smiling emoji. The internet storm continued. Someone found Katie's social media profiles, took all her photos, where she bragged about bags, trips, pretending to be an intellectual, and now they were mocking her, suggesting she lived large with the money from her mother's sold bracelet. Someone called Theo's work, asking questions about his moral integrity and family situation, and others simply gathered at their front door. They said someone even threw eggs at their door and pasted copies of the article on it. Late at night, after 11, my phone rang again, this time a local landline number. I hesitated but answered. It was Theo's voice, but there was no trace of the previous aggression. It was hoarse, tired. There were even notes of pleading. Can you ask those people on the internet to stop? My parents can't take it. Katie fainted once. There's a crowd at the door. Someone is banging. We called the police. They come disperse them, but an hour later others show up. Sarah, I'm asking you, I'm begging you. I was silent. Theo waited a few seconds. His voice became even lower, muffled. I know. Katie was wrong. My parents went too far. I'll bring them. They'll apologize to you and Lara. You just have to take that article down, please. We'll work everything out. Come home with Lara. We'll solve everything. I promise. Theo, I began to speak. My voice in the quiet motel room sounded particularly clear and cold. What are you going to promise with your father's hand? The one he hit me with. Your mother's words. The ones she insulted Lara with, or Katie's momentary weakness, who stole and slandered. On the other end, there was only heavy breathing. I didn't publish the article, and I have no way to take it down, I continued. As for the internet, we have to answer for our actions. If your parents didn't teach you this simple truth, then now society will teach you. Sarah, don't exaggerate. Theo seemed to explode again, but quickly calmed down. Do we really have to get to this point? Lara is little, she needs a complete family. A complete family, I almost laughed. My contracted cheek responded with pain. A grandmother who calls her a thief and trash, a grandfather who hits her mother, an aunt who steals and slanders, and a father who always thinks his wife is making a scene and isn't forgiving enough. Theo, tell me, does Lara need a complete family like that? Theo fell silent. The legal notice. You received it. My demands are clearly stated there. You want to negotiate. You can come when your whole family, especially your parents and your sister, understand what they did and are willing to pay for their actions. Then have your lawyer contact mine. I paused. And another thing, don't bother me or Lara anymore. One more call, one more message, or an attempt to find us, and I will consider it harassment and hand the evidence over to the police and the court. That's all. Having said that, without waiting for a reply, I hung up and blocked the number. I put down the phone, walked to the window, and opened the curtains. The city continued to glitter with lights. I knew that tonight for every member of the Miller family would be a night of insomnia, anger, fear, humiliation, regret. All these feelings would gnaw at them like worms. And we, Lara and I, in this quiet, safer motel room could finally breathe a sigh of relief. The storm had risen, but this time we were in its epicenter, where a strange calm reigned. The taste of revenge was not a fleeting pleasure, but a process akin to slowly cutting flesh with a dull knife. You watch your opponent gradually crumble while you calmly hold the handle. And this was just the beginning. The next morning, I woke up to a call from Joanna. Her voice was hoarse after a restless night, but cheerful. Sarah, did you see the news? Your condo complex was on the local morning news. The faces were blurred, but anyone in the know would get it. Last night, someone painted the Miller's door red and wrote, "Family of thieves and sadists." The cleaning crew spent the whole morning scrubbing it off. The company where Katie worked, the phone won't stop ringing. They say she didn't even show up for work today. At Theo's job, his boss also had a talk with him. They didn't say anything directly, but they hinted that he should resolve his family problems and not tarnish the institution's image. I listened to this without much emotion. I just asked, "What about the police? I'm going to the station this morning. I'll take the video, your medical report, and the recording where Katie confesses the theft. This case can be treated as both a family conflict and a case of intentional assault and defamation." We'll see their reaction. And also, I've already drafted the divorce settlement proposal, parental responsibility agreement, division of assets, and compensation. We're not letting anything slip. We'll see how they behave today and adjust the details. Joanna, thank you. You do so much for me, I murmured. Stop it. We'll see how they beg you for mercy. Joanna laughed and hung up. Lara woke up too, rubbed her eyes, sat up, and the first thing she did was touch her shaved head, pursing her lips. I hurried to put a new beanie on her with long bunny ears. Seeing herself in the mirror, she finally smiled. We had barely washed up and were about to order breakfast when the phone rang again. This time, a completely unknown landline number. I hesitated, then answered, but remained silent. On the other end, Arthur's voice dry, harsh, without a hint of yesterday's anger, as if he had aged 10 years overnight. Sarah, it's Dad. I remained silent. He waited a few seconds, and hearing no reply, was forced to continue. His tone was as humiliated as I'd ever heard it. Yesterday I was wrong. I shouldn't have raised my hand to you. I'm sorry. Your mother-in-law. She also realized she was wrong. She shouldn't have done that to Lara. And that pest, Katie, I beat her. The bracelet. She sold it, paid off her debts. The money. We'll put it together, give it back to you. Maybe we can just forget this. We're family. We're our own. The stuff on the internet, can you take it down somehow? We can't leave the house. Nosy reporters, some thugs. Your mother-in-law's blood pressure is through the roof. I listened in silence. When he finished, I slowly said, "First, I am not your daughter. Don't call yourself my father. Second, an apology should be made in person and sincerely not, with 2 words over the phone. Third, the bracelet is your business. How you repair the damage is also your business. Fourth, what's on the internet I don't control. When you did what you did, you should have thought about the consequences. Arthur seemed to want to explode but restrained himself, breathing heavily. So what do you want? To drive me and the old woman to our graves to ruin your sister-in-law? My sister-in-law, I smiled. Katie, when she was stealing and slandering my 3-year-old daughter. Did she consider herself my sister-in-law? When you called Lara a thief and trash, did you consider her your granddaughter, Mr. Miller? I'm not ruining you. I'm just demanding justice for my daughter and for myself. Justice, justice, he mumbled. Despair was audible in his voice. We apologized. We'll give back the money. Isn't that enough? Tell us what we have to do. Today at 2 p.m. at the law office of Joanna Macedo. I dictated the address. You, Mrs. Lucia, Katie, and Theo, you all have to be there. Come with sincere remorse. We won't wait for latecomers. And another thing, don't you dare play any tricks or try to follow me or Lara, otherwise, next time you'll be talking to the police. Without waiting for a reply, I hung up and blocked the number. Lara lifted her little face to me. Mommy, who was that? No one important. I kissed her forehead. Lara, this afternoon, Mommy has to go out to take care of some things. Auntie Joanna will play with you in the kids' room downstairs. Okay, Joanna had already told me that during the negotiations her assistant could watch Lara. Lara nodded and asked, Are you going to beat up the bad people? I looked into her clear eyes and nodded. Yes, I'm going to beat up the bad people so they never dare to hurt us again. At 1:50 p.m., I entered the office building where Joanna's practice was located. She was already waiting for me in the lobby in an impeccable skirt suit with perfect makeup and a penetrating gaze. She nodded at me. Let's go. They're already in the conference room. They look like they've been through a ringer. She handed me a folder. This is the divorce settlement proposal. I've highlighted the key points. And this is the list of their possible offenses, including a preliminary calculation of the compensation. Take it, you don't need to read it. It's more for psychological pressure. I took the thick folder as if it were a shield. The elevator ascended, the numbers changing, my heart beating steadily and strongly. Pushing open the conference room door, I saw all 4 of them turn to me simultaneously. Theo was sitting closest to the door, unshaven with sunken eyes. Seeing me, he moved his lips but said nothing. Arthur and Lucia were sitting in the center, both looking like wilted vegetables. Lucia's eyes were swollen. She sniffled constantly, avoiding my gaze. Katie was huddled in the farthest corner, disheveled, pale. Her gaze was fixed on the table and she was trembling all over. Joanna entered behind me, her aura overwhelming. She went to the head of the table and with a sharp thud placed her briefcase down. We're all here. I am Sarah Miller's attorney, Joanna Macedo. We are gathered here today to negotiate regarding the acts of defamation, insults, and abuse against Sarah Miller and her daughter Lara, as well as the assault on Sarah Miller, and consequently to discuss options for resolution and compensation. Her voice was calm, but each word, like a small hammer, struck the nerves of those sitting before her. Lucia wanted to start crying, but Arthur nudged her and she held back. Joanna motioned for me to sit. Then she opened her notepad and got straight to the point. First, I asked Katie Miller to make an official apology to Sarah Miller and her niece Lara for the theft of Mrs. Lucia's gold bracelet and the subsequent defamation of a 3-year-old child. I draw your attention to the fact that we have an audio recording of your confession, as well as a video recording as evidence. Katie flinched and lifted her head. Her face became even paler. Tears streamed down. She looked at Theo, then at her parents, but only found evasive glances and silent pressure. Trembling, she stood up, bowed to me, and whispered, Sister-in-law, I'm sorry. It was me who stole the bracelet. I slandered Lara. It's my fault. I beg you, forgive me. Louder and clearer, Joanna shot coldly. Why did you steal it? How much did you sell it for? Why did you slander Lara? Katie swayed, sobbing. I had a payday loan debt. I had no way to pay. I took the bracelet, sold it for $3,500. I was afraid my mom would find out, so I said it was Lara. It's my fault. Really, it's my fault, sister-in-law. Forgive me. On the internet, everyone is cursing me. They're going to fire me from my job. I can't take this. You can't take it, I finally spoke. My voice was low, but in the silent conference room it sounded distinct. When you were slandering a 3-year-old child, did you think about how she would live with that, when your mother was calling her a thief and trash just like her mother a nobody? Did you think if she could take that? Katie froze, just covered her face with her hands and cried. We accept the apology, but whether we forgive is another matter. Joanna, with a stone-faced expression, made a note. Next, I ask Arthur and Lucia Miller to apologize for the insults and abuse of their granddaughter Lara, as well as for the assault on Sarah Miller by Arthur. Arthur's face turned green. He clenched his fists, then opened them. A vein pulsed on his forehead. Lucia again wiped away tears, murmuring, "It was on impulse. A moment of madness." Madness, Joanna raised an eyebrow. In a moment of madness, one can shave a 3-year-old's head. In a moment of madness, one can insult a child and her mother with such filthy words. In a moment of madness, one can assault people. If apologies solved everything, what would be the use of the police and laws? Arthur lifted his head and looked furiously at Joanna, then at me. His chest heaved. Theo pleaded with him in a low voice, "Dad, Mom, just apologize." After a long pause, Arthur hissed through his teeth, "I shouldn't have hit you. I'm sorry." Having said that, he immediately turned away as if those words had stolen all his strength. Lucia also mumbled unintelligibly, I shouldn't have scolded Lara or cut her hair. Stupid old woman." Joanna nodded, still emotionless. "All right. The apologies are also on the record. Now let's move on to Sarah Miller's conditions." She pushed the folder in my direction. I opened it, and looking at the points highlighted by Joanna, began to state them coldly. First, regarding the gold bracelet, Katie Miller must return the $3,500 received from its sale, as well as compensate for the difference between the actual value and the sale price and the emotional damages caused to my daughter. In total, $5,000 to be transferred to the account I specify within 3 days. Katie gasped, wanted to say something, but Arthur gave her a look that made her swallow her words. Second, I continued. Arthur and Lucia Miller, for the abuse and insults to my daughter Lara, as well as for the assault on me, must provide a written apology with a commitment to never repeat such behavior. The apology letter must be posted on the notice board of your condominium for 1 week. In addition, you must reimburse me for medical expenses, lost wages, and emotional damages, as well as pay for psychological counseling for my daughter. In total, $10,000. To be paid within 1 week. Yuan Mei Yuan. Lucia screamed. "You're the thief here," Joanna smiled coldly. "Mrs. Miller, would you like me to calculate the amount a court might award if Sarah files a complaint, and what consequences, including administrative detention, you might face? $10,000 is a preliminary calculation of damages. And this is already our amicable settlement proposal." Lucia seemed to be choked, turning red. Third, my gaze shifted to Theo, who had been sitting with his head down this whole time, and then to his parents. "I am filing for divorce. I will have full custody of Lara. The condo we live in now, although it is in Theo's and Arthur's names, is a marital asset. After the marriage, I contributed to the mortgage payments and took on a share of the family expenses. I demand either to be included as a co-owner with a 50% share or based on a market valuation for the Miller family to pay me a monetary compensation corresponding to that." "Impossible!" Arthur jumped up, slamming the table. He was shaking with rage. "That condo is our nest egg. Don't even dream of it. Divorce. Fine divorce. Take your kid and get out, but you're not getting a cent from the condo." A dead silence fell in the conference room. I looked at Arthur's face contorted with rage, at Lucia's hate-filled gaze at Theo suffering, and at a huddled Katie, who it seemed was indifferent to everything. Then I slowly took my old phone out of my bag, played that video recording, and turned the screen toward them. On it, Katie, sneaking a rude Lucia, Arthur raising his hand, and Lara's frightened face. No sound, but it was more terrifying than any scream. "Joanna," I turned to her. My voice was low, but everyone heard it. "Since the other party is unwilling to negotiate, then there is nothing to talk about. Call the police. Assault, child abuse, defamation, theft. Let them open cases. We'll file the complaint. And also inform my media friends who are following the situation that they can publish the next article, 'Abusers do not repent. Victim will seek justice in court.'" Having said that, I stood up, took the folder, and made a move to leave. "Wait!" Theo suddenly shouted. His voice was hoarse, his face pale. He looked at his enraged father, his crying mother, my stone face. Finally, he looked at Joanna, and then at the small phone screen in my hand, as if it were a time bomb. He deflated as if his spine had been removed. We agree." His voice was hoarse and desperate. "Dad, Mom agree. Otherwise, we're all finished." Arthur wanted to protest, but meeting Joanna's icy gaze and seeing the phone in my hand, he opened his mouth and withered like a punctured balloon. He collapsed into the chair, covered his face with his hands, and let out a dull, animalistic groan. Lucia's crying became louder, filling the conference room. Joanna looked at me. I nodded almost imperceptibly. All right. Joanna sat back down, taking out another set of documents. If you agree, then let's confirm each point and sign the amicable resolution agreement and the divorce settlement proposal. I ask that you read them carefully. It was no longer a negotiation, but a unilateral reading of a sentence. But I knew. The hardest part was over. They feared not only the law, but also the shame, the humiliation of being publicly exposed. And that was exactly what I wanted for them to bow their heads to pay a real price for the pain they caused me and Lara. The atmosphere in the conference room was oppressive. Lucia's cries were interrupted by sobs. Arthur sat with his face in his hands, his shoulders slumped. Theo, with bloodshot eyes, stared at the table as if he wanted to burn a hole in it. Only Katie seemed to have breathed a sigh of relief, deciding that since the matter was about money, it no longer concerned her. Joanna, ignoring their state, took a few more documents and spread them on the table. This is the amicable resolution agreement and the preliminary terms for the division of assets. I ask everyone, especially Theo Miller, as well as Arthur and Lucia Miller as the property owners, to read it carefully. She pushed the documents to the middle of the table. Theo, with a trembling hand, picked up a copy. Arthur also peeked through his fingers. Lucia, who was barely literate, just cried and pulled on Theo's sleeve to have him read it to her. Joanna began to read the points aloud. Her voice was calm, but each word was like a nail being hammered in. Point 1 regarding compensation. Katie Miller $5,000 within 3 days. Arthur and Lucia Miller $10,000 within 1 week. Transfer to the account specified by Sarah Miller. This is a one-time payment after which the parties will have no further claims against each other regarding this incident. I don't have $5,000 all at once, Katie whispered. Joanna didn't even blink. That's your problem. $3,500 from the sale of the bracelet. The remaining $1,500 you can borrow. If a single cent is missing in 3 days, Sarah Miller will file a police report for theft and defamation. And then I fear you won't get off with just $5,000. Katie paled and fell silent. Point 2, written and public apologies. The apology letter must be signed by 3 people, Arthur, Lucia, and Katie. It must clearly acknowledge guilt and offer sincere apologies to Sarah Miller and Lara. The original is given to Sarah Miller. 3 copies are to be posted on the 3 main notice boards of your condominium for 7 days. In case of damage or disappearance, it must be replaced immediately. No, that's impossible, Lucia suddenly protested. There were still tears on her face, but in her eyes were terror and protest. If we post that, how are we supposed to live afterward? What will the neighbors say? No, absolutely not. If you post it, you will temporarily lose face. Joanna's voice was calm but unyielding. But if you don't post it and the police come knocking, court summonses arrive, reporters show up, you won't just lose face. Defamation, abuse, theft, assault. Any one of these is enough for serious consequences. Do you want to lose a little of your reputation now or have a criminal record later that will affect both Theo's job and Katie's future? You choose. Mom, Theo lifted his red eyes. It's not worth it. We'll post it. It's better to post it than to go to jail. His voice broke into a sob. It was total defeat. Arthur was still sitting with his face covered, but from his trembling shoulders you could see how he was fighting with himself. Finally, he lowered his hands. His aged gray face was turned to me. In his cloudy eyes, reluctance, hatred, and a kind of resignation were mixed. He said nothing, just nodded his head very slowly and heavily. Lucia looked at her husband, at her son, at the pen in the lawyer's hands as if it decided her fate. Finally, she gave in and without further argument began to cry softly. Joanna, with a stone-faced expression, recorded their consent and moved on to the next point. Point 3 regarding the property. According to the law and the history of mortgage payments during the marriage, Sarah Miller is entitled to a corresponding share. We propose 2 options. First, you include Sarah Miller as a co-owner with a 50% share. Second, based on a market valuation, you pay Sarah Miller 50% of the value of the condo in a lump sum. You have 3 days to think about it. If you choose the second option, the payment must be made within 15 days. 50%. Arthur jumped up as if scalded. But meeting Joanna's cold gaze, he lowered his tone to an animalistic growl. We saved our whole lives for that condo. It's for Theo. She's only been married for a few years. Why does she get half? For giving birth to a useless girl. Those words were disgusting, but I no longer felt anything. I just looked at him calmly as if he were a clown making faces. Joanna adjusted her glasses. Mr. Miller, by law, the portion of the mortgage paid during the marriage and the appreciation of the property during that period are marital assets. Sarah Miller worked, had a stable income, took on family expenses, and participated in mortgage payments. We have bank statements. And offensive expressions like useless girl, I advise you to keep them to yourself. Otherwise, we can demand additional compensation for emotional damages. Furthermore, if the case goes to court, not only will the condo be divided, but also all other assets deposits car. And given Theo's evident fault, Sarah will have an advantage in both the division and the custody issue. I fear, then you won't get away with just the condo. Joanna's words like a scalpel cut open the Miller family's last illusions. Theo grabbed his head. Arthur breathed heavily, but had nothing to object to. Lucia's crying turned into muffled, desperate sobs. You have 3 days to think, Joanna repeated in a tone that allowed no argument. If there is no clear answer in 3 days, we will consider that you have refused the amicable resolution and will file a complaint in court and with the police immediately. She pushed the documents forward. And now I ask you to sign the letter of intent, confirming your agreement with the first 2 points regarding compensation and apologies. Theo was the first to take the pen. His hand was shaking badly. He scribbled on the paper several times before managing to write his name crookedly. When he dipped his finger in the red ink for the thumbprint, his whole body contorted. Arthur looked at the document for a long time, then extended his calloused hand, the one he hit me with, and took the pen. He squeezed it so hard that his knuckles turned white. He signed with difficulty as if putting all his strength into it. As he left the thumbprint, he closed his eyes tightly. Lucia was almost forced to sign by Theo. Her finger in the red ink left a blurred trail. Katie signed faster than everyone, as if it could free her from the debt and persecution. Joanna carefully checked all the signatures and thumbprints. All right, the letter is signed. I ask that you comply with the agreed-upon deadlines. She looked at me. Sarah, do you have anything to add? I met 4 pairs of eyes with different expressions, and slowly but firmly said, until the public apologies are made, the compensations are paid, and the housing issue is resolved. Lara and I will not be returning home. I will have full custody of Lara. This is non-negotiable. Theo, you can see your daughter, but only with my prior consent, and not in the presence of Arthur, Lucia, or Katie. I don't want my daughter to have contact with those who could harm her. Theo lifted his head, wanted to say something, but just nodded tiredly. And one more thing, I added, looking at Katie. The $5,000 is for the emotional damages caused to my daughter. If the money isn't there in 3 days, not only will I go to the police, but I will also hand over the recording of your confession and the evidence of your payday loans to your company. Think about it. Katie's face turned white as paper. If there are no more questions, that's all for today. Joanna closed her notepad. Remember, 3 days, 7 days, 15 days? We will be waiting. I stood up after Joanna took my bag, and without a single look back at that family, I left the conference room. The hallway was bright. Joanna patted me on the shoulder. Excellent work. I nodded. In my soul there was no joy of victory, only a heavy, almost numbing calm. Leaving the office building, I breathed in the fresh air. My cheeks still hurt, but it no longer caused me fear. My phone vibrated. It was Martha. The negotiations are over. All these new details. Katie's ex-boyfriend showed up telling everyone how she was always vain and how much money she borrowed. Theo's boss, they say, also found the full article. There was a serious talk. Hold on. Don't give in to pity. I replied, okay. Pity. The moment they hit me when they shaved my daughter's head and called her a thief, my heart turned to stone. Back at the motel, I saw Lara playing with Joanna's assistant. Seeing me, she ran to me. Mommy, mommy. I knelt down and hugged her warm little body tightly. Mommy, did you kick out the bad people? She whispered. Yes, I kissed her. I kicked them out. Now Mommy will protect Lara, and no one will ever hurt us again. I knew this wasn't the end yet. The money, the apologies, the house. Problems could arise at every stage. But I was no longer afraid. I had the evidence, the law, my friends, and a heart that after the betrayal had become incredibly strong. This battle I had to win for Lara and for myself. Our new good days were just beginning, and for others, on the contrary, they were ending. The apology posted on the notice board became an indelible mark for the Miller family. It stayed there for exactly 7 days. During that time, I took Lara to parks, amusement centers, libraries. We went twice to the psychologist Joanna recommended. Lara gradually stopped wearing her beanie constantly. When her grandmother or aunt was mentioned, she no longer trembled with fear but would wrinkle her nose and say, "They're mean." Joanna kept me updated daily. Someone posted a photo of the apology letter in the residents' Facebook group, generating a new wave of discussions. The Miller family became a local celebrity. Lucia and Arthur stopped frequenting their usual places. Katie was indeed fired from her job for immoral behavior that damaged the company's reputation. The sale of the condo went faster than I expected. The Millers were in a hurry. The price was slightly below market. Joanna controlled every step of the deal. In the end, the condo was sold for $518,000. After deducting the remaining mortgage and taxes, a little over $450,000 was left. According to the agreement, I would receive $225,000. On the day of signing the purchase and sale agreement and the divorce decree, the weather was cloudy. The entire Miller family was gathered again. In those 10 days, they all seemed to have withered. Theo had lost weight. Arthur was hunched over. Lucia looked gray and exhausted. Katie was just a shadow. The procedure was long. When it came time to sign the documents about the division of the sale money, Lucia, seeing the figure of $225,000 next to my name, couldn't take it. Her hand with the pen trembled. Thick tears fell on the paper, smudging the ink. "Mom, sign it!" Theo said hoarsely. Sobbing, she scribbled her name somehow. Arthur signed, grinding his teeth so hard it was as if he were carving an inscription on a stone. After the signing, Theo transferred the first part of the amount to me, $150,000, which they received as a deposit. The remaining $75,000 would come after the full registration of the transaction. Seeing the text from the bank, I felt as if a huge stone had been lifted from my soul. The divorce decree followed. I had full custody of Lara. Theo would pay child support. His visitation rights were limited by prior agreement without the presence of his relatives. I signed with confidence. Theo, before signing, looked at me for a long time with pleading in his reddened eyes, but Joanna coldly hurried him along. He signed. Arthur suddenly stood up. His chair scraped the floor with a screech. He looked at me fiercely, but in his gaze, besides anger, there was also fear. He opened his mouth, but instead of curses, he only emitted a dull groan and staggering left the room. The others followed him. "Congratulations, Sarah. You're free," Joanna said. "Free," I repeated the word. In my soul, there was no jubilation, only a huge, empty calm. 3 weeks later, I received the remaining $75,000. That same day, a courier delivered the divorce certificate. It was all over. I kept all those documents in a small safe. They were my scars and my armor. I decided to leave that city not for the hustle of a major metropolis, but for a quiet coastal town known for its good environment and schools. Through the internet, I quickly found and rented a 2-bedroom apartment in a new complex. On the day of departure, Joanna and Martha came to see us off. "You did everything right, and with great dignity," Martha said, hugging me. Joanna knelt down to Lara. "Are you going to miss Auntie Joanna?" Lara nodded confidently. "Yes, come visit me and Mommy." We got in the car. The city filled with my nightmares was left behind. In the new city, everything was different. The air smelled of the sea. I enrolled Lara in a cheerful and welcoming preschool. The first few days she was shy, but she quickly made friends. I found a good job with a flexible schedule. With the money, I made a down payment on my own 3-bedroom condo in a building under construction. It would be ready in a year, but that didn't matter. Lara and I had a future. Lara's hair grew, and I could already make small pigtails. On weekends, we went to the beach to build sandcastles. She no longer remembered the past. News about the Miller family reached me in fragments through Martha. Katie, deep in debt, moved to another state and disappeared. The old Millers, with what was left of the money from the condo sale, rented a rundown place in the suburbs. Arthur got a job as a security guard. Lucia rarely left the house. Theo kept his job but could forget about promotions. He never remarried. This information no longer provoked any feelings in me. Their world had crumbled and ours, mine and Lara's, was being rebuilt. One autumn day, I was sitting in the park watching my daughter with 2 funny pigtails adorned with strawberry clips chasing a butterfly among the golden leaves. Her laughter sounded like a little bell. My phone pinged. Joanna sent me a screenshot of another transfer from Theo. "Punctual. Looks like he's learned his lesson," she wrote. I smiled and put the phone away. "Mommy, look, I found the prettiest leaf." Lara ran to me, holding out a bright red maple leaf shaped like a heart. I picked her up. "It's very beautiful. Let's take it home and press it in a book." Okay, yes, she snuggled against me. Mommy, I'm so happy now. Much happier than before. My heart filled with a moving tenderness. I hugged her tightly, looking up at the high blue sky. Me too, sweetie, I whispered. Our good days are just beginning. The slaps, the curses, the shaved head, and the cold betrayal were behind us. Ahead of us was only our own life won through suffering but bright and strong. And the regret, the weight of loneliness of those who had wronged us was just a footnote in our story. And that was the best justice of all.